Yeah, I enjoyed it. I did a fair amount of research going into the game, so I kind of had some things I was looking for.
Hmm.
So that kind of made it more interesting.
And,
So I'm really interested to see what Nick has here. He
oh
opened,
my
so he opened to
goodness.
75 under the gun when only the 10 was on, which is a really unusually sized raise. Kevin's going to go ahead and 3-bet out of the blinds, and Nick 4-bet really quick. I'm really interested to see what Nick has here because this is a very unusual line, and Nick takes some unique lines, but he's very good.
Oh,
Okay, so it, he decided to make an extra large size raise with a hand that is pretty. I generally like making the same size raise for all of my opening raises. Nick is deciding to make a bigger size raise with a hand that could use some more protection.
and a queen high flop. Rainbow, heads up.
So I would expect Nick to bet pretty small here and Kevin to check call. Um, both of them are aware that their hand can be beaten right now fairly easily. Like Kevin can still have some overpairs here that he decided to not get in pre-flop, whether he was trapping or wanted to just take check call lines. Nick knows that Kevin can have hands here that are not aces, kings, or ace queen. So he's going to try to get a little bit of value and probably just try to work his way to showdown. Kevin will be doing the same thing, hoping that Nick has overcards or just one of his neighbors' 10-3 type of hands or whatever.
Any kind of the random
Yeah.
combinations that we've seen.
So I think at this point, both of them are looking to get to showdown without putting in the rest of stacks. Although both of them are pretty willing to go for it if they feel like they really know where their opponent is at in the hand. So we'll see. But I would expect us to just go check a lot here. And then one of them to make a decision on the river.
You would expect to, but nope. Okay. The way Nick has played sometimes, it wouldn't be a surprise if he barreled. But take it nice
Yeah.
and easy and check right back, because well, everything you said, Bones, has come to fruition here to the river.
So Nick is going to have an interesting spot here when Kevin checks. He's going to try to decide, would Kevin value bet all the hands that beat him here? And if he thinks that Kevin is always going to value bet a queen, and always going to value bet his overpairs, and if he happens to have 8x, which I don't think he would, from 3-betting a really big under the gun open, I don't think he's going to expect Kevin to have unpaired hands that have an 8 in it very often after he calls the 4-bet. So now Nick's going to try to decide if Kevin is always betting a hand on the river that is better than jacks. If he thinks that he is likely to be ahead greater than 50% of the time when he bets, he's probably just going to go ahead and check it back here. Or no, I'm sorry, he's probably just going to go ahead and bet the river. If he thinks that Kevin has some slow plays or will not pay off a bet, he's probably just going to check it back.
So it's been checked here to Nick, and trying to process it all, pot of $2,000.
And yeah, okay, Nick's going to go ahead and shove here. That is not terribly surprising. I think Kevin's hand looks a lot like what it is. And to counteract this,
Oh, he calls, and well done by neighbors.
well played by Nick.
Wow, golf claps. That is a hand I think we're gonna have to put down as one of the candidates for hand of the night, just based on how both of them have approached it. And
Yeah, I really like how Nick was able to extract the maximum amount of value there.
I've enjoyed just the variety of perspectives of people who have played here for a while, have played different stakes or different games, and all really fascinating. So I think we hope to have Kevin on at some point and spread his wisdom.
I think Matt Liu would also be a good addition.
Yes.
He's a very sharp guy, and like we talked about, he did the vlog for a while and is used to being able to clearly articulate his thoughts about poker and the poker scene.
Is George going to go heads up here with Luke with the 8-5 of spades, ace high flop. Here for Luke, kind of a newcomer, like you said, across the pond. Bet here at 30. That's what I love about TCH. You can meet people from all over the world that come from different backgrounds, and I think it's kind of refreshing when you hear a different accent that's like, what the?
So it looks like George is gonna go for a check raise here. So this is a pretty optimistic check raise. Yeah, so aside from having pretty much zero equity with his actual hands, he's against an under the gun opener, and this is just gonna really smash the under the gun opener's range. He's gonna have aces, kings, ace, king, in their hands that George can't really have. So I think George is just gonna kind of see if he can get away with it, and we'll see if he decides to barrel a turn here.
Yeah, if it gets the kind of card that he can barrel with, is
so yeah, George is just kind of out on a limb here. I think he's gonna just decide to see if he can get away with it here, or if he can get Luke to fold a king, although he would have to bet a king on the flop and call a check raise with it. Maybe he's going to try to fold out some flush draws, but yeah, he's just, as we've seen from a few hands, like sometimes you just run into it, and you know.
Yeah, George can be all over the map in different areas. And I think that's what makes him a really dangerous tournament player. It's like, I've seen guys, and he's just one of that just, he's going for it. And he's going to get some very bad news. I doubt he's going to... Well, I mean, he can rep the flush here. He's played it that way, that his check raise would draw, but it's looked good enough to piece all of this together here in this spot.
Yeah, so George found a bluff card. This is... So what Luke is thinking right now is that if George has a hand for value, he doesn't beat it. He loses to most of the aces that check raise the flop, which I guess is just ace queen and ace jack. I think George probably makes a big 3-bet from the blinds with ace king. He loses to pocket sevens. He loses to ace 7. He loses to the check raised flushes. So now what bluffs can George have here that make any sense? Like, obviously George can have bluffs that don't make sense, like his current one.
Right.
So the bluffs that make sense would be like queen 10 of clubs, queen jack of clubs, where he check raises the gut shot in the backdoor flush draw on the flop. He turns the royal draw, decides to barrel off, and finds a bluff card on the river. Those are pretty much the only bluffs that make any sense at this point. He can have some other backdoor club bluffs, but I don't think that's really George's MO. Like, some people would have like 9-8 of clubs here and bluff, but I don't think that's really George's style. Although he has 8-5 suited, so, you know, what the fuck do I know?
Yeah. Whatever path you take to get here to the end is...
Yeah,
you know,
so...
If it gets you to the promised land, who are we to judge?
Yeah.
It is just, everybody's got their own moxie, their own mojo and strategy to it.
Yeah, and I think...
Let players play.
And I think, yeah...
Oh, and he gets them to fold, too.
Good job, George. And he shows them the bluff. Yeah.
I mean, that is, I think if you're watching this, I'm not sure that's a play you want to add to your repertoire very often. A lot of action here, 5-5 uncapped, a $40 double straddle. Bart will give up the queen 10 offsuit. Got a raise up here by Matt. I mean, is that... I mean, what is kind of like early position play here for hands like that? It just kind of becomes raise or fold.
Yeah. So Bart's fold with the queen 10. I believe he's probably in the low jack. Yeah, he's in the low jack. That's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Against softer lineups or less aggressive lineups, it's an open. But you got a lot of guys in there that are willing to mix it up. Particularly Matt and Noam have position on him. And they can both 3-bet him light or call him light and make his life pretty difficult. And he's got someone in the big blind, like Sage, who is just not going to fold a lot of hands. So he's just not going to take down the blinds very often. He's going to have to fight for it. And Queen 10 doesn't play particularly well against hands that are capable of fighting back. So I think it's a fine fold. Against a softer lineup, you can go ahead and open it. But against this one, Yeah, I think I would probably just fold.
Check, check, and go to the river. Sage has made a straight. Matt has just king high, but
And I would expect Matt to probably just give this one up. He's not going to look to call. He's going to look to raise, and that's a really big bet. Yeah, he doesn't. So he has the 9 of spades, which is relevant because he blocks 8-9 and some flushes, and some of Sage's Jack X hands that would call King Jack Jack 9. So I think he's trying to think if he can get a bluff raise through here, and it looks like he's going to go for it. You know, obviously, I think Sage is just going to go ahead and call here. But
oh wow!
Props to Matt for
At least taking a
realizing
chance.
that this is probably a spot where he can put in a raise and actually going for it. Like, there's a lot of times when you're at a table and you think, hey, this is a pretty good spot. Like, he can't really have any good hands. But to actually go ahead and do it takes a lot of guts. And that's one thing that I've really seen from Matt in these streams. And props to him for it. It's definitely easier to think about something in your head and then just kind of, you know, bail on it and fold or whatever. But props to him for putting Sage in a pretty tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, he's representing that either a hand like Jack 7 or 8-9, and it's. Whew, Sage feels conflicted here. It's not an easy decision.
It's not a good spot. So he's trying to think of if Matt would continue with his spade draws on that turn, or if he would check and just give up. So he's going to call.
Wow.
So nice call by Sage.
That is one that definitely makes the list.
Matt showed a lot of heart there. So props to both of them.
Big call there by Sage. Another candidate for hand of the night.